Are you curious to know what it's like to rent out probate property and have a foolproof plan to find the right tenant? Well, stick around because we're going to get right into it. Hey everybody, it's Doug Lee with SoCal Probate Real Estate, here to chat with you about foolproof plan to find the best tenant for your probate property. So there's 8 things that need to be completed in order to identify the right tenant for your property. Number 1, you're going to need a cover letter. Who is this tenant that's applying here? You don't know anything about them. That's why the best thing to do is to get a letter from the tenant summarizing who they are, and it's also an advantage for them because it's their chance to put their best foot forward to you, the landlord. Within this cover letter should be a number of things. Just general information about the tenants, why they want to stay in your unit, perhaps where they work, a little bit about their lifestyle, if they have kids, pets, what they like to do. That should all give you a pretty good sense of their personality, who they are, their lifestyle, and see whether or not that's the kind of tenant for you. If they're a bunch of frat kids and you're in a pretty quiet neighborhood, they're probably not going to be the right tenant for you. Okay? So, or similarly, if they're retired and it's a college town and there's nothing but parties, they're probably not going to want to be there because it's probably going to be a little bit too noisy, correct? The second thing that's really important to get is everybody that's applying for the unit, aged 18 and above, must submit proof of documentation. So copy of their driver's license or their passport, valid government ID. Number 3 is every applicant must complete the 2-page rental application. So in that application, we'll have their information, social security number, information about their bank account, how much they have, list of references. All that must be completed and submitted as well. The 4th thing that is also included is the tenant must also include a full credit report. This will have their current credit scores. Normally there are 3 credit rating agencies. So the middle score is often the score that we all use. And the full credit will report what they've defaulted on, when they missed payments, how many credit cards they have outstanding. It's very thorough. So if they have great credit, there's no way to hide. Okay. The 5th thing that they need to do is they need to provide proof of funds. All they need to do is black out their account number, have the top page of their most recent bank statement to show that they have enough money for first and last month's rent. The 6th thing that they'll need is they're going to need to give you the 2 most recent paycheck stubs, or if they're a 1099 employee like a real estate agent, they're going to need to show the last 2 years of tax returns. This should help give the agent an idea of how much earnings they make and if what they're telling you is indeed correct. Because some tenants, they're not really good with math, or they haven't taken into account their most recent promotion. The 6th thing that's also really important is this thing called renter's insurance. What exactly is renter's insurance? Well, what renter's insurance is that if a tenant gets that, it's normally, if they got good credits, $165 to $180 a year. It will protect a tenant up to about $100,000 in damages. When I was a tenant and I had renter's insurance, I was a fool to leave my garage door open and my road bike, my $2,500 road bike, got ripped off. I had renter's insurance, so they covered me for that loss. Thankfully, the best thing that I got right there. After these 7 things have been submitted to the landlord, it'll be very clear who is a quality tenant, who's got great FICOs, who's got solid earnings, and who's willing to take the property soonest. The other thing to keep in mind also as well is that when we take a look at an application, we want to see that the tenant, their net earnings after their take home per month, the rent is not more than about 50% of that. So if they're bringing home about $4,000 a month after taxes, we want to make sure their monthly rent isn't above $2,000 a month. So that way they have enough to kind of live their life and they're not struggling to get by. Similarly, when we take a look at how much they have in their bank account, we want to make sure that they haven't, spent their entire account dry and they have nothing left and they're really kind of paycheck to paycheck. The landlord wants some assurance that they have enough money in the bank account, they make more than necessary, that hitting these rent payments is not going to be a problem. And last but not least, once everything's been done and the landlord has selected the prospective tenant, they'll communicate that to the tenant, and then the landlord will have something called the background check, where the tenant will pay on average about $50 per tenant over 18, and the landlord will run a background check on each of them. This is to check for criminal record, terrorism, a bunch of weird stuff that isn't typically on there. So, and once that comes back, and if it's satisfactory to the landlord, then they can kind of proceed forward. And then as the agent, we meet the tenant at the property with the documents assigned. And then the tenant, it's very important that the tenant has only a few ways to pay. Number one, they come with a cashier's check, or two, money order, or three, the money has already been paid via Zelle. Reason being is that personal checks can bounce. Okay, so unless the tenant's also, I forgot, of course, cash as well. So unless the tenant is paying for cash, a cashier's check made to the landlord's name, money order, which is good as cash, or payment by Zelle, then no other payment is accepted. Bad thing about Venmo is that there's a cap on amount that they can pay each day. So it would take them a couple days. So if you like this video and you learned a lot, I provide some value, don't be shy. Make sure you smash that subscribe button and stay tuned for new videos every week. Thanks a lot.